Does it sound okay now?
Okay. Yes, sounds fine.
Sounds fine.
This is Jason and Greg. Greg and Jason, who are we? I had to unmute myself. Welcome. Oh, no, wait, something still messed up. There you go. Are we live? Greg, say
We
something.
are live.
Okay,
yeah, we're live,
great.
I think. You can hear me, right?
A little technical glitch we just had. Welcome to the long-awaited first presidential debate in 2020. It has been a wild ride getting
It's about
here.
time.
We are Jason and Greg live. I am Jason.
And I'm Greg.
Thank you. It's been a minute since we're live on this platform, and it's really great to once again flood the airwaves and speak to you in such a direct manner. Greg, what are your hopes? What are your dreams for tonight?
My hopes are just that we have a fun stream. Either way, I think it's going to be great. No matter which candidate does better, I think that we're going to see a fun display of what these two candidates have to say. It's either going to be funny or it's going to be really serious. I don't know which it's going to be, but I think it's going to be a fun one to watch.
I have heard reports that I am echoey. If this is correct, this would be news to me and a shock to the JGL network.
You sound normal to me, but do you have
great.
effects possibly going somehow out to the stream? Let me see.
If I did, that would be terrible. If you would mind checking that real quick.
It sounds fine to me.
It sounds fine. It might have. Thank you, Mom. Please, could you have Dad look at your setup, please? Thank you.
Okay. We got multiple reports. It's okay in other places. I don't know.
We've got a fun.
Hopefully it's not us.
And walk us through your expectations for tonight.
Well, first off, let's talk about the fact that we are what 900 miles apart. Something. I mean, we're streaming this remotely, come together, and since the last stream, we are in different locations than we were before. So this is a new technical challenge, but we're working through it, and hopefully it works out well tonight. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see who does best tonight. I think based on what I've seen from Biden, he's going to struggle as far as communicating here in this platform. But then again, it depends on who looks the most calm. I think is who's going to come out ahead in this, and Trump can also tend to not look calm sometimes. So we'll see.
Yes. I am of the.
Is that audio going out? They're talking now on this stream. I don't know.
No, I have the stream muted still.
Okay,
cool. Should I unmute it?
No.
What are they saying?
It's fine. They just
not saying
said
anything.
Take a moment. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so my thoughts on the outcome. I don't think it matters. Well, until recently, I heard that 8% or 10% of Pennsylvania voters were still undecided between the two, which was news to me. But in the end, I do not believe that this is going to change anyone's mind. No one's going to walk away from watching this stream and think to themselves, wow, that candidate is awful. Because we know both of them already are not the greatest candidates. They're not the greatest people. And so in that regard,
we're not starting with the cream of the crop, or
we're really
we
not.
didn't start with it.
No,
that's what makes this fun, though.
Sure.
Your audio is a little lower than mine. Is what got reports of. You can boost yourself
removed it because I was scared of an echo, so I lowered it a bit. Hopefully that's a little better. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. So
also. Oh, go ahead.
No, what? You go ahead.
I was just going to point out, be sure to read the ticker at the bottom. There's great quotes from all the candidates. Those are actual quotes that they've all said.
Yes. Yes, I
So
have
be sure to keep an eye on that.
26 of them, I think. I think it'd be a good time to, at this moment, play the national anthem.
Two YouTube screens open. That would do it. Yep. All right, I'm going to mute these guys that are talking because I don't know what they're saying. And right now, I feel like it's unimportant.
Greg, you can't hear what I'm playing right now to the stream.
I cannot.
Welcome to the first 2020 debate, brought to you by JGL. Not available in Montana.
What in the world? I just unmuted it to get that music.
I just paused it. It's been fun. That's all we're going to do.
This is the fun thing about this not being local. I have no control over this whatsoever.
This is fully operated by.
This was maybe a mistake.
This is I am producing. Normally, you're the producer. You're in charge of the setup and the gear and the lighting.
Yeah, it used to be that way.
We're just doing.
That's fine. It's easy for me. I just
sit back and relax. Just sit back and relax.
I basically feel like a special guest. I'm just
Who's this?
Dialed in. I don't know who these guys are.
The rest of the term,
but they honestly look not that
important.
important.
A great shout out for United Airlines.
That they look like they think they're important.
Has been with us for.
Oh, they're shouting out.
Commission of Presidential Debates co-chair
in Washington D.C.
What are they talking about?
Also, special thanks to some people in.
They're trying to bore people to death before the stream is what
I think they're just thinking this.
Which is what we're trying not to do. But if we've done that, we're sorry.
What?
I said these two guys are trying to bore people to death before this stream.
No.
We're trying not to do that.
So
if we are, then
we would have, due to the state of the world right now. We don't have a on-site reporter like we did for the other previous debates. We chose for the safety of all.
COVID. Look how many people are in there. We couldn't get to be one of those people.
We couldn't. The resources we had all the money, we had everything lined up, but we just thought for the safety of our on-screen,
all the money,
our on-screen talent,
our super high production,
we had to remove the on-site reporting, and we hope you understand.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It is.
Last year I was in Miami via the magic of teleportation.
The magic.
and special effects. And it was great. You can go back actually and watch our previous debate live stream. I believe it's still on our channel.
Yes.
From the Democratic presidential debates back in 2019. Those were fun to watch. Definitely an interesting time. And now we're down to the final two. So.
It was always going to be final two.
Yeah, well, it had to get there eventually.
It could be final three, but when do you think a third party is going to be a part of the discussion, or a multiple party?
That's interesting because like by this time last year, you heard, was it Gary Johnson? I think there was a strong third party candidate at that point, or stronger than normal. And this year, you're not hearing about that anymore. So that's kind of an interesting thing that there's not even discussion of a third party. It's interesting. I mean, honestly, would like to see more, independents at some point. But the problem is, I do think that when you vote for an independent, I mean, that essentially it usually just takes away votes from whatever your party is that you prefer. So it's sad that that's how that occurs, but that's just the nature of how this two-party system is ingrained in our countries for so many years. And that's what we got. That's what we got to work with. We've got people in the chat saying Yang Gang. Yeah, you haven't even heard Yang said.
I was a fan of the Yang Gang. No, I wasn't.
Whoa.
I liked what?
Whoa.
What?
No.
No,
go ahead.
I didn't. Okay, some of elements. He was the most real Democratic candidate. Okay, you look at
one of the better spoken ones of all of the ones on the stage for sure.
Anyone else who was on the ticket back in whenever that was last year, I hated everyone. Yang, he was tolerable because he seemed more real than a lot of other candidates.
Yeah,
and definitely the ones we are left with.
Oh, I mean, they narrowed it down to the best of the best. That's what they do.
They always every single presidential cycle, it's always the two finest candidates.
Yeah, that is true. We've got people in the chat saying, if you never vote for a third party, they'll never go anywhere, and your vote never matters. That is true. I mean, at some point, you got to boost them but the sad thing is, like, it takes so many people to do that, and I guess if you did that every year, maybe they would gain traction, but it takes so many multiple terms before before it actually affects it, and so I'm not sure that even in my lifetime that we would see that really become a major factor. I don't know. Are you eating half a pizza on the stream right now?
Listen, I don't have a pizza slicer, so I just have to resort to cutting it once and living with
I
the
ate before
consequences.
I ate before the stream, so I wouldn't have this, going on here. Wow.
If you could allot some funds for us to get an actual an intern or something to help set this up for me, otherwise I have to do it all myself.
Yeah. Vote for the future. So you write in Mickey Mouse, everybody. If we can get Mickey Mouse to be president, free Disney tickets for all. Is that what his platform is?
I'm surprised Kamala Harris hasn't suggested that.
I mean, I think Biden was talking about free broadband internet for everybody. I heard him talk about that recently, which I don't know who he's going to go with.
Free iPad for every toddler, and
if he's trying to get
for all.
Free spectrum for everybody, he's just going to end up with a lot of complaints.
With iPads, housing, and healthcare for all.
Whoa.
I want to listen in. What's happening?
These guys are still talking.
We are deeply grateful for their belief in our work and their extraordinary contribution.
This is such a boring pre-show.
Debates.
Is this only because we're watching C-SPAN?
To introduce
no, because this is on stage.
We're 11 minutes from the debate, and all we have is these two old guys to talk.
Snyder, President
oh, who's this guy?
Western Reserve University.
And who's that lady?
Thank you very much.
I don't know who these people are. This is the strangest pre-debate show.
Good evening.
Good, welcome.
Oh, he's welcome to the city of Cleveland. Do you have the audio going on for this or no?
A little bit.
Tonight,
not much.
You join us in the beautiful Samson Pavilion.
Okay, I'm going to mute it. This is boring. Let's get back to the real business at hand.
Okay, so let's talk about specifically what do you think is gonna be Biden's strong suit in this tonight?
What
do you think his effort, like his angle, should be? Because he's up against somebody that has a record of 4 years that they're running on, and he has his record of 47 years. What do you think he's going to bring to the table?
The only thing Biden needs to do in order to do well is not fall asleep, to not be a gaffe machine, and to basically just be alive enough to raise people's confidence in him. Trump is an awful. His whole thing is Trump's bad. He's going to bring
Trump's thing is
country back together. No, like he's just not Trump. That's his entire spiel. And if he communicates that, everyone's gonna love it. The people who love him, and that's his thing.
I know, and I don't know that that's the best way to run, because the only thing you're getting is you're only getting the people that.
But that's the easiest way.
Don't like Trump to go for him, which maybe that's a large amount of people. But the thing is, if you're just getting that, you're not pulling any Trump supporters to your side. If that's the only route you take, you gotta talk about policies. You've got to talk about things that maybe people that are on the fence between the two are gonna jump to the other side to get that extra vote or something. But I don't think they're focusing on that. I think they're focusing on just Trump is bad. Let's not go with that. And I think Trump is being boosted by that, and I think that's actually going to help him. If he sticks with that tonight, that could be a bad strategy and make him look like
Who knows?
not as strong.
This is I've been waiting for this thing forever.
I'm really wondering how much of a yelling match they're going to get into, or if they're both going to keep it calm. Like I don't know.
I hope Trump doesn't. You know, that first debate with Hillary back in 2016 of Trump's versus Hillary the first time around. If I recall correctly, Trump was really calm in that, and surprisingly,
didn't Hillary do better because of that?
You know, I didn't rewatch that. I didn't do my homework.
I don't remember, but I want to say if he's calm, that's not his best strategy, unfortunately. Which is because I think he has the ability to fluster the other candidate,
and also
that's his strategy. That's how he won in 2016.
Amped up, like he is inflammatory at times and extremely like in your face and abrasive. But this is his brand.
That's
like
how
that is his whole thing. And so
it's worked for him up until now.
Yeah, by speaking that way, he's getting people who do feel put on the sidelines by the other half of the politicians, you know. And so that is a way of getting people on his side, and you know, affirming their already their beliefs. So dude, who knows? Who knows? This is going to be nuts.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be.
Do you know the topics? Let's talk about taxes real quick. Let's not.
Okay. You don't want to talk about taxes?
No, I hear they may have. I'm sure. I am absolutely positive Biden is going to bring that up. The New York Times dropped that piece a couple days ago.
Right. Oh, his personal taxes. Yeah.
But guess what?
I don't think it matters. I mean,
when
they're making it out to be a bigger deal than it is. But
I don't know. New York Times was not able to say it was tax evasion or tax
the Trump
avoidance.
family is entering into the building.
It's tax avoidance, and everyone who's rich does it. So
it's going to be interesting too. You have a smaller audience.
Guess who's been in office for 49 years? Joe Biden.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guess what?
That's the thing I think that Biden's got to really focus on is how is he going to deal with the fact that he's got to show that what is he going to do different that he didn't do for 47 years or the 8 years he was in the vice presidency. Like he's got an uphill battle to fight to say what he can do. All right, we've got our debate moderator.
I'm going to listen to the moderator. I'm going to pull up this stream.
Yeah.
Sound. Right. He's still muted. I don't hear him.
Yeah, I think it's actually the stream's messed up. They muted him.
Is he aware?
Or no, are they not allowed to show what he's saying before because this is C-SPAN?
No, this is just
Fox?
I bet this is just audience. They're talking to the audience, probably not to clap.
Yeah.
There's no audience. There's some audience.
There is some audience, but that's gonna affect them too because they're not gonna get as good a feedback of how they're doing.
I'm watching on C-SPAN. Is that C-SPAN? Oh, I
am as well.
Is that C-SPAN too?
Hang on, does Fox have it?
Is that the? No, it's I'm watching the stream and it's just muted. It'll come back live. It doesn't start for 5 minutes.
It's muted on everywhere.
No worries, people. So hey, how's everyone doing? We hope this is a fun experience for all of the viewers. We're gonna try to not talk over candidates in important moments, but feel free to chime in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. Maybe we'll browse those and read them on air.
Yeah, in real time, you can chat and add your commentary. We're good. Yeah, like you said, we're gonna try and remain as quiet as possible throughout. Make a few comments here and there, but we'll be trying to listen in mostly to the debate because we're gonna have post-debate commentary at the end.
Absolutely.
So for a few minutes, so we want to be able to talk about what we thought at the end, and we hope you stick around for that and discuss it with us.
Though, can I say now that this pizza? I want to tell my thoughts. My during pizza commentary. This is delicious. Okay, Jack's Cheese Pizza. Not a sponsor.
Is that that's a sponsor? We always had sponsors.
This stream is brought to you by Jack's Pizza. Grab a slice at your local Walmart.
Publix lemonade.
What kind of lemonade was that? That's the raspberry lemonade?
That is blackberry. It's like a seasonal, I guess. It's really good. I like it. And since Chick-fil-A canceled the mango passion tea lemonade, it's no longer. I can't order it today. I'm very sad.
It's not summer, is it?
Yeah, summer's apparently over. So what can I do? Gotta drink that instead.
That's okay.
I like this. Like they're just zooming in on random people's faces. And it's quiet.
Yeah,
right
let's
now.
get rid of them. Dude, I love debates. That's how I got into so interested in politics back in the day. 2008. Obama versus
I really think I preferred
who was it?
like Chris Wallace's debate moderation over for sure any other channel. Not to say that I'm like
John McCain.
Specific to Fox here, but I think he does a better job.
The debate is about to start. I am so excited.
We've got 10 people watching. How's everybody that's watching? Are y'all ready for this?
Or you could
What are
say,
your
how's everyone
hopes?
doing tonight?
No, I specifically tried to not
I
just
know.
say that.
I noticed. You're really trying to not. I
Make it
appreciate. This is my phrase. This is my phrase.
That's your phrase. We're trying to make this stream different. This is a new
This is-
JGL.
JGL Season 2, Remote Edition. We could have done this back in March, but
Remote
it took till almost. It's been almost a
whole-
year since we did this on the regular.
Yeah.
Can you
If you
believe
go back
that?
and watch our previous episodes and highlights, we had some fun times.
The stream is still silent. Is that the case for your C-SPAN?
Yeah, it's still
I'm gonna
silent for
pull
me
up a
too.
backup just in case. I mean, it's C-SPAN. They're not gonna not.
Fox is also streaming. You got ABC, other ones.
Oh, we're
Yeah,
live.
if we get kicked mid stream, guys, we'll try and come back. Just keep refreshing it. Hopefully that's not a thing, but YouTube,
What other stream? You think's Fox News? Who's These people are streaming the debate. They got CNN, so I'm gonna do CNN. You okay there? How's it
Yeah,
going?
I'm
You
okay.
good?
CNN as a backup.
Yeah.
You want to give them a view?
No. Sure. How is that?
It's pretty good.
You get something in your eye?
I got something in my eye or something. When I coughed, it's just like all of a sudden I'm dying. So hopefully I'll recover. It's 9:03 and is nothing happening?
Is Joe Biden sleeping?
Maybe he's late. Is that what they were talking about? Like Joe Biden's still flying in? Sleepy Joe Biden has not arrived.
No.
This is maybe not great.
Why isn't? I guess this stream we don't have audio because there's just no commentary on the off.
They're not doing anything.
We are the
they're not-
commentary.
This is yeah. Biden's gonna really struggle with the teleprompter being behind him. I don't know how he's gonna do this. He's gonna be turning around and reading Chris Wallace's teleprompter.
Wait, is it only Chris Wallace or are they having more people up there?
It's just Chris Wallace doing
It's
the
just
debate.
Chris Wallace?
Moderation. Yeah,
What?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's how Fox usually does it. Sometimes with another person or two. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, they change.
Wait, okay, he's about to speak.
All right, let's unmute.
No, he's not about to speak.
He's just about to mumble.
Maybe it wasn't supposed to be start at the same.
Is the whole thing just muted? Like, did they lose power to the audio system in the building? Oh, there he is.
One moment. Oh wait,
He's talking.
he is.
Good evening from the Health Education campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates.
The commission.
The commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments, with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the two candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic. which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates.
Great.
As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience
Yeah,
here
right.
in the hall has promised to
They
remain
wouldn't anyway.
silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can
The
focus
people.
on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump,
All right.
and the
It's
Democratic
happening, guys.
nominee, Vice President Biden.
That was the least amount of noise I've ever heard at a presidential debate.
I think you're supposed to. Oh, there he is. What was
How
that?
you doing, man? Is that the greeting they do?
I don't know if that's what he went with.
Okay.
Boy, that audience applause is pathetic.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some
just
of her
scratches your
biggest endorsers are very liberal people.
I feel like they needed to fix
from
the
Notre
white
Dame
balance.
and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of
Right?
time.
It's a way more blue.
Even if we did it
on
after
Trump
the
because of
election
his
itself. I have a lot of time
Yeah.
after the election, as you know.
Orange.
So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster.
Yeah.
There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election. So
yeah.
they were stopped.
Yeah.
And probably that would
Elections have
happen in reverse
consequences.
also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank
He's
you.
calm. He's calm.
Same question to you, Vice President Biden.
That was
You
really
have 2
reserved.
minutes.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for.
This is
doing
going to be great.
Looking forward to this, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Joe.
Oh, no.
The American people have
He's
a
not
right
ready.
to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is, and that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle
already
of
had
an
the
election
chance.
already.
Oh, he's.
The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's
Why are
at
we going
stake
to-
here is the
what?
president's made it clear
Why are
he
we
wants
switching to
get
the
rid of
healthcare?
the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that. He ran on that, and he has been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court, and the justice. And I have nothing. I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written before she went on the bench, which
Well,
is
that's
her
not
right,
what your colleague said.
that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is
Attacking
not
her family.
constitutional. The other thing
Already,
that's on the court,
day
and
one.
if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, pass the
Let's
Affordable Care Act.
define a
And
man.
there's 100 million people who have
The
pre-existing
pre-existing
conditions.
conditions will be taken
And
away.
they'll be taken away as well.
Sounds like a good
Those
thing.
pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say
Here he
is
goes.
concerned, the people already had their say.
Oh, he's so
They-
calm.
Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years.
What?
Did he,
So we
I
have
think
a
he meant
Senate,
a Supreme
we have
Court
a
justice.
president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time,
Oh, this-
we have an opening.
The election's
I'm
already
not
started?
elected
No,
for
it
3
hasn't.
years.
Starts
I'm
November
elected for
3rd.
4
Sleepy.
years.
The
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with
Who
their
have
private
by
health care.
banning private
Simply
health care.
not true.
Well, you're certainly
knows
going
that.
to
Kind of true.
socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to socialist
this is,
medicine.
we're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
White.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe.
Yeah, how did that
and
work
One of the
for
big
everyone
debates
who
we
lost
had with
private health
23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
Not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
There
your
we go.
party has said.
Now we're
is
talking
simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your
That
party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I
I think as the night goes on, he's going to get
Here's the
tireder.
deal.
Oh,
the deal
yeah.
is
And-
that
and it's gonna get more
gonna wipe
confused.
out
That's how he normally
pre-existing
does.
conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch.
He's not good with
they're-
numbers.
How many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it
Of the
mean for them
200,000
going
who've
forward if you
died,
strike
how
down
many people
the Affordable
survived?
Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing conditions.
308,000 military people dying because you
what
couldn't
he just
provide
said.
them proper
Oh
health
my
care in the
gosh.
military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if
this.
you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200. It would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're
Mr.
not gonna be able to
President, as
shut
a
him up.
moderator,
Let me finish.
we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but
But
go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is
I'm gonna let you
opposed
finish.
to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right, let's talk.
We've already spent 15
We
minutes
got
of
a
it,
lot
though.
to
like
unpack
that.
here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So, on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Hey,
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they
Let me-
want to
if
give
I-
good
if I-
health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have
He needs some
promised
good health care.
to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you
rid
an
of
opp-
the
I'm gonna-
individual
when I finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse
opportunity.
me. I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That
big
is not a
chunk of
comprehensive
Stop
Obamacare. That
debating.
is absolutely a
Chris,
big thing. That was the
I-
worst
I
part of
didn't ask it,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was
debating
the
him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe.
I
The
know,
individual
I-
mandate was the most
Mr.
unpopular
Vice Pre-
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we
to-
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me
I would think
ask my
Biden knows what
question,
happened.
and then you can answer your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Dude,
Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised.
Yes.
Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored
Yes.
nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government,
Yeah.
but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
Trump
Things that we've done.
He has not
insulin.
cut
Trump
I'll give you an
approved
example.
so
Insulin
many
is
just
going
generic
it's
drugs. So,
destroying
like,
families, destroying
Yeah.
people, because
cheaper
I'm getting it for
prices,
so
that's a
cheap.
thing that's been happening.
It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs that what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay just a tiny
As
fraction.
I say,
of
this
what
is
we do.
open discussion.
No,
Let
but
me
this
ask
is
you about,
big.
you'll
This
be
is
happy,
big stuff.
sir. You'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make
not
is
even letting
that
him
is
answer.
going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
will
Chris doesn't know what's going on.
ask you the question. It will
Not
end
what your party
pri-
says, by the way.
It will end private insurance
true.
and create
It's
a
true.
government takeover of health.
want
It
to
does not. It's only
abolish
for those people who are
private
so
option.
poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's
I
far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
Will
we
you-
call it,
well,
and that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going to
didn't
listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not
here.
by
I'm here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2
I
days
tell
early.
you-
You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to do is
Super
hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky.
you
I'm
say
very
that?
lucky tonight as well.
He said that.
And
Listen,
tonight I'm going to make
What?
sure.
I am a
because
direct
here's
descendant
the
of
deal.
Pocahontas, and
Here's
I
the
do
deal.
not mind
The fact is that everything he's saying
him using
so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his
Pocahontas
lies.
to refer
Everybody
to Elizabeth
knows he's a
Warren.
liar.
But you
I just
agreed.
want
You're
to
behind.
make sure-
Joe, you're the liar.
Are you live?
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
Make sure you're live on the stream.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
I'm
No, he doesn't know
live.
how to do that.
Wait.
He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Talk,
the wrong
Joe,
night at
go.
the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
Disavowing it.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just
This
lost
is
the
just
left.
two guys
number
arguing.
two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Medicare.
Do you
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President.
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there
calling
are
it
20
his
million
recession.
people getting health care through
Yeah.
Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three.
health care at a
But-
much lower price
but-
because
and by the way,
Obamacare
he doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you
Obamacare
realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my
They
people
called it the
run it
Affordable
really
Care Act.
well
I prefer
or
Obamacare.
badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably
wasn't
blame him,
affordable.
but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known for.
just had a meeting with them. They said, the
Yes.
problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
peop- that's what his
So
people
we
said.
do want to
No,
get
no,
rid of it.
it's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
do
it, sir,
something
but I
that's
have to
cheaper
give
and
you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right,
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate
Don't speak
Republicans,
anymore. That was good. That
We're
was
talking
good.
originally
That was good,
about the
Joe.
Supreme
That was
Court
good.
here. If Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't wanna
you're a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
You wanna put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so-
list?
All right, gentlemen, I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unprecedented.
court.
We have
and
ended.
he's not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject. So let's try to be serious about
Tommy.
it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you
Say good luck
first,
to
sir.
himself.
2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over
Did he just say
7
200 million
infected
again?
in the United States.
No, 200.
We, in fact,
I think
have
got it right.
5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths.
Oh, he's doing numbers. He's not good at
40,000
numbers.
people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said it is
When you were
what it
presented
is.
with the number, you
Well, it is what
gave
it
an
is
incorrect
because
number.
You are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was.
And
He
he
knew it was a deadly disease.
And he did things.
And he
What did he do?
banned
He's on
travel
tape,
from
he's
China,
acknowledging
which
he
you
knew it.
said at
He
the
said
time
he didn't tell us or
was
give
a bad
people
idea.
warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American
Trump's really struggled not to
people.
interrupt
He
right
don't
now.
panic. He panicked. In addition to that,
I'm really
what did he
struggling
do?
not to interrupt.
He went in and we were insisting that the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back in
just 2
March
minutes.
exactly
it's so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools that cost a lot of money. You should get out of your
Get out of your
bunker
basement.
and get out of the sand trap and get in
Which
your golf
Democrats
course and go
blocked
in the
the second
Oval
round of
Office
funding.
and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to
You have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have
unrelated to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No, just
Wait a
two
minute.
minutes.
This is
Just
2
2
minutes.
You didn't think we
yes,
should have
first of all,
closed our
I could do
country
this.
because
I
you
could do
thought
this,
it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
Far
point.
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
You made
by
a
the way.
point. Let him answer
And
it.
there was no one, we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy.
He shut it down to
Steve. He
save
shut
lives.
down. The reason
you-
it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people. Far
That is-
more people.
And,
you would have been
and by the way,
months late.
your own,
You were
his,
months
his
behind me,
own his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine. We're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't.
It's
But
not
we
him
trust as a
doing the vaccine.
scientist.
He's
You
not
don't trust
developing
Dr.
it, Joe.
Johnson, Pfizer.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen,
and
gentlemen,
It's
let
like
me
Trump
move on
is-
to
Trump is
questions
everything.
about the
This-
future because you both have touched
Yeah,
on one
guys,
of the
it's
two of the
Oxford.
questions
It's
I'm
like
going to
all
ask.
of these research.
Focusing on the future first, President Trump,
All right.
you
What's
have
this new question?
repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those
Operation
were your two
Warp
words.
Speed. Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call
So
them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the
Their-
summer,
their
sir, before
estimates
it's
were
generally
all off
available.
at the beginning.
Just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking
after
about when it's
that.
generally available, not when
Well,
it will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
this
delivering
is the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away.
He never said
by
that.
the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle.
He did say
And
that.
by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
He
this
didn't
is
say
the
that.
same
Said
man.
sarcastic.
That
was
you
him.
know that.
I
that
don't-
was said sarcastic.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, he
Right.
said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't,
knows.
or Senator
And
Harris is saying you
no,
can't trust the scientists.
No, you can trust
He doesn't
the
even know what his own
scientists.
running mate.
She didn't say that. You can't
She
trust
said.
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will
Yes.
be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in
and
charge.
By the way,
they will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the
Yeah.
stock market.
What are
One
your
of
thoughts?
the two, because guess what? A lot of
How-
people
how is-
die,
how is-
and a
how
lot
is Joe
more are
Biden
gonna
doing at this
die
point?
unless he gets a lot
been half an
smarter,
hour.
a lot quicker.
Mr. President.
I don't think he said anything
You used the word
super significant
So you said
yet.
you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name
my
of your
thoughts.
college.
Okay.
You didn't go to
He's-
Delaware
he's
State.
being
You
calm,
graduated either
and
the
so far he
lowest
hasn't
or
gotten too
almost the
confused,
lowest
but-
in your
Yeah, I
class.
know.
Don't ever use the word
So he's
smart
doing
with
well
me.
in that sense,
Don't
but-
ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's-
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
see,
and
he's
it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President
He complains
Trump
that
about reopening
Trump shut down,
the
but then he
economy
also wants
and
to
schools.
open slower.
Because he doesn't
Yeah,
have a
he-
plan. If I were
he just
running,
can't
I
make his
would
mind.
know
Plan. He's
what
just-
the plan is. You've got to
Oh,
provide these
I'll let-
businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the
Which-
PPE as well as with the
People have
sanitation they
PPE.
need. You have to
I've heard
provide
that
them
story.
Trump would
electric-
shush for a minute.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi and Schumer,
by the
Cry
way,
and Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the
Okay.
Senate.
But-
And he sits on his golf course. And, well, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably
All right,
play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open.
He
And we
shut
did
it
a great
down,
thing
Joe.
by
Admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we
Right.
found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states
Yeah.
that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on
yeah.
November
I want to
3rd.
move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to
thing.
another
I've
subject.
gotta
But
respond.
those,
I
but
wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen, I
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
But you've
right
got to
now.
respond to that.
Wants
President
to shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you
Look at
questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say
Vice
this.
President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money.
Wherewithal.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks.
He just
Masks make a
helped
big
them get back on
difference.
track.
His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, if everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said
no,
the opposite.
no
They actually
serious
have.
person said the opposite.
Yeah.
Yes,
No
they did, actually.
Well, look
serious.
all right, I
Look
wanna
at
ask
Dr.
you-
Fauci. Dr.
fact,
Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we
opposite.
got
He
a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both
masks.
about one last subject.
Biden
because
doesn't look comfortable.
Your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir. Agreed. Vice President Biden, you are
You
holding
haven't
much
done a single
smaller,
event in months.
events with
Nobody will show up.
people with.
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big
No,
rallies?
the rallies
why
are the
you
riots.
not?
You're
go first,
confusing
sir.
that word.
Because people
rallies,
don't know what
riots,
I have
they're
to say.
the
I
same
mean,
thing.
You're not
I've done
worried
a great
about a
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Go ahead, sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no
or
negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And
Now,
we've
so-
had 35,000, 40,000
All right. Do you
people
want
at
to
any of these rallies.
just
Yes.
quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy?
What is a
President Trump, in this
K-shape?
segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well.
Like Nancy Pelosi and her fridge
Billionaires
full
have
of ice
have
cream.
made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's
It's
just
the wrong
yeah, I
statement.
understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his
That
administration
can't be true.
than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost
Because
their jobs
of
are
this
those people
event,
who have been on
bro.
the front lines. Those people
isn't
who have
Trump's
been
virus.
saving our lives. Those people
Yeah.
who have been out
can't
there
pretend
dying.
that
people who've been
he's
putting
lost
themselves
jobs
in a
when he
way to
gained
make
them at a
sure
faster
that we could
rate.
all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting
all this.
that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools, why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right, your time is up, sir. We are going to get to the...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
People want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
All right,
people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know
We're
how
going to
I
get
found
back.
out? When he took a
Gentlemen,
phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your
Let's-
economic
oh, boy.
plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you
Yeah.
well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those
I
years.
knew Chris would bring this up.
I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
one year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to do,
It'll never
go
be
to the
finished.
Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report
Hey.
that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally
What about-
under-leveraged.
what about
because
Hunter
the
Biden
assets
and
are
his
extremely
4.5
good,
million
and we have
transfer from
I built a
I'm asking
Russia.
you a specific question.
Yeah, that'll
That's
never
way
be a
more
discussion.
interesting to me.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of
return.
that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in
He's
2016
got a whole
and
bunch of
2017?
accountants doing
millions
this.
of dollars.
You
Yeah.
paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not
They know what they're
millions
doing.
of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to
When?
see it. But let me
And
just
law?
tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I
Biden.
was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him
Then the money
put
a
him in
school
a
teacher makes.
position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does
It's
take
in the
advantage of
law.
tax
It's
code. That's
not
why
illegal.
I'm
There's
gonna
no,
eliminate
yeah.
the
there's
Trump
no,
tax
nothing
cuts.
that says.
And I'm going to eliminate those tax
Okay.
cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Oh,
Because
I
you
wanna-
weren't
Why didn't
president.
you do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no.
up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay.
including
Gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you
Biden's-
gave me,
Let's-
including taking care
We're
of your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
ma'am.
president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make the federal government spend $600
Isn't that
billion
Trump's
a
thing?
year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
Here he's going. He's falling
So I'm
apart.
talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 19
Tax the businesses
91
that are employing
companies,
people.
Federal,
Yay.
in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a
Even
single
more?
penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
That's right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never boomed
The
before.
economy
Well,
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me
wait, no,
finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for the American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in
False.
Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock
Tell
market
us.
goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you
Yeah,
what, you'll
it's
lose
true.
half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here, they'll leave for
hardly any
other
companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a
Have it.
depression, the likes of which you've
Wait,
never
let him
seen.
speak. He's going to mess up.
Mr.
We
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
he blew
booming.
it.
Where-
He
It
blew
wasn't
it.
Where?
booming.
Where did he
It
blow
was
it?
the weakest recovery
Sir, is it
since
fair to, wait,
1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris.
That's
number
not
two.
true.
Chris,
Number three.
They said it would take, no, you're on number two.
No.
Chris, they said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
agree.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought
he
them back
was.
right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having.
All he
they
keeps
didn't
saying is
come
he's
in
done very
very
little.
Mr. Vice President.
And so you take a look
He
at what he's
doesn't
actually
say
done.
it.
He's done
Biden?
very little.
Yeah,
His
he can't-
trade
he can't
deals
actually
are the
refute
same
what Trump's
way.
Biden
saying.
is
He talks
using
about
such
these great trade deals. You know, he
General-
talks about the art
generalized
of the
language.
deal. China's
Yeah,
made
very.
perfected the art of the
That's the
steal.
problem. Trump has
we have a higher
specifics.
deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch down
All right, gentlemen,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
Yes.
What did he
True.
do to deserve it?
Yes.
What did he do with
That's
Burisma
none
to
of that
deserve
is true.
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer. If,
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really?
been
He didn't
totally
get
but no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please. You've
totally
asked a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
that is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
He is.
It's a fact.
Not,
Well,
it's not
Just
there
follow.
very
You
open.
raised an issue, let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Interjecting
Did
like that.
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no
wait.
experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
Chris
President,
needs to
my
be
son
quiet.
did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
Mr.
the only guy
President,
that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And
The
Ukraine.
media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
and
Joe.
under
No,
oath,
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
even the
you.
people
Stop
under-
it!
He got $3.5
he
million from
testified-
Let Joe
Moscow.
lie right
he
now.
testified
He's doing
under
well.
oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to know
honorably.
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't do a
well,
good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say
You
that.
get
here's the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say, Joe,
No. Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family.
I know mine doesn't have it.
My family
already
lost
wrote-
a fortune by coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's such a.
They're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million
He
for
doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about
you
here.
should
All right,
Take
that's
Not
the end
about
of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I
it's-
be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
That's
He
a good
stood
thing.
up.
No,
he stood up.
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you don't
That
get rid of
is
the
If you're-
press.
you know what? You're,
absolutely
wait,
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be. Why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal. We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment.
Oh,
In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions.
They're now
I'm
arguing
sure
about
you
how
sort of
much
do
they're
that.
interrupting.
And him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response
This
to
isn't
the
helpful for
violence
anyone.
in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what
Okay.
directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you
That
believe
was
you have
Trump's
done
worst
more
moment.
for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that.
It is whose
now, second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible.
You know
and
about
then
coming out of
what
bunkers.
happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans
1 in 1,000?
killed because of the
Seems like a really high
coronavirus.
statistic.
And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior.
No,
of
that's not. That's wrong.
African-Americans. This
It has to
man
be.
cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing.
Yeah,
Look,
that's
the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to
How
look
many,
at what he
100,000?
did. And what he did.
That got to be what he meant. How many
for the
African Americans are in the country?
I
It's
mean,
not-
listen, I'm trying to do the math
President
here.
Trump, you
lot.
have 2 minutes. Why should
That's-
Americans trust you over your opponent?
13.4% of the
Did a crime
population.
bill, 1994, where you call
Even
them
if you take
super
all
predators,
200,000.
African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you
Quote
have treated
Kamala
the
Harris
black
right now.
community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support
that's actually right.
President Trump. I don't think you have
statistic might
any
be right.
law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs.
Al
and we're going to
Sharpton,
work this out.
is he coming
We're
to
going
this
to work
event?
this out so we change the
definitely.
way in which
You know
we
it.
have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate.
Why did you
Peaceful
take you
protest
months
is.
to say
Violence is never appropriate.
All right,
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of a town
President Trump,
and burn down your
President Trump,
stores and kill people all
President
over
Trump,
the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful
protest?
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not, but
asking-
you say it is.
I did
President
not
Trump,
say
I'd
it.
like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory.
This is such a...
Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the
Because
place.
you're making people
and you
of
know it, and
just
so
white
does
people
everybody
take it.
else. And he would know.
What is
something
Oh, it's
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life.
I thought
it
he
was sort of a reversal.
some
And if
claim
you
to
look
that.
at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
you just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to
Donald
be
Trump
made
tweeted
aware
1 minute ago.
of what
How is
other
that possible?
people feel like, what insults
I wanna
them,
know who
what
has
is
his Twitter.
demeaning to them. It's important to people
Who's
know
doing
they
it?
don't want to. Many people don't want to
In these
hurt
moments?
other people's feelings, but it
know,
makes
right?
a big difference.
I wanna
It
keep
makes
it
a
open.
gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like
Isn't-
Irish Catholics like me
Aren't-
and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people
Sorry,
who don't
wasn't
have
it
money. They
you-
look down on people
you and your-
who are
your
of a
friends
different
who are looking
faith.
down
They
on
look down on people who are a
ACB's
different color.
religion?
In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism.
Exactly.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was
tremendous
tremendous division. There was hatred.
Maybe my
You
head.
look at Ferguson. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is
is
that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime-
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead,
Yes, I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him
A
finish.
little bit of
order.
order.
This is
Let-
left.
let-
You know,
let him-
Yeah, a
let
little
him-
bit.
Law and order with
a little-
justice, where people get treated fairly.
Just a little bit
And
of
the
order.
fact of the matter
Just
is,
a-
violent crime
just a
are down
pinch of order.
17%,
3 parts law,
15% in our
1 part
administration.
order. All
It's
right.
gone up on
That's
his
what-
watch.
that's
He-
much more.
he
That's my
has-
recipe.
All right, we're
He
now,
is President of
Mr.
the
President, you're going
United
to,
States of America.
We
Mr.
were
President,
breaking every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And the
we're now going to
excuse
talk
me,
about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run
could we please?
cities.
That's
and
exactly
states.
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a
Mostly.
party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died, shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. crime.
Republican
It is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
wouldn't
seen.
know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
I was
better.
raised.
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was
So much
raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this
Kinda
issue of law and
cities.
order, though. And in the joint
Kinda not the
recommendation
suburbs.
that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police offices. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist
9/11?
to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know.
You don't need to call 911 because you got a nurse on 24 hours a day helping you out.
It went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about,
That's-
Chris. That's
well,
not what
that-
they're
that's
He's talking about
exactly-
defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Would you-
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
not. Look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
except
about
listen.
it.
Look,
Name
folks,
one
Can't name a
law
group.
enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you,
I think
Joe.
I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't
role,
think there
and
are any.
I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent.
pizza
in
cold?
Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned
We're not
into
peaceful.
riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic
that's
nominee,
nice.
and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now. Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic
He's
governor
not,
of
though.
Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it
wait till
clear
the
in my
Harris-Biden
public statements
administration.
that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted.
really great
Anyone who
at
commits it
prosecuting.
But
should
you've
be
never called
prosecuted.
for the people,
He's never
the leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call
Because
bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock
Well,
off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look, here,
Oh, really?
Here-
Oh, really?
here's the thing.
I sent in the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer
No,
of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to
interrupt
send in
and-
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump,
took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that.
don't-
And so here's the
All right.
But here's the point.
Go
The
ahead,
point
sir.
is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in,
The
and
rioters are the
talking
ones
to
pouring
people
gasoline
and
in the
saying,
fire, man.
"Let's get
Okay,
everybody
they
together,
are helping
figure out how
his
to deal with
cause
this." What's he do?
because
he just pours
no
gasoline
one-
in the fire
because
constantly.
their
and
side
every
is-
single
their side isn't
Okay,
dealing
and
with
to end this, button up this segment. I'm going to give
That's
you a
exactly
minute
right.
to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His
repeatedly.
statement. Wait,
you have
just one
No,
second.
you've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to
you know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it, and
you
we
know, if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats,
We would
could
very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in the National Guard. It would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir. Do
I
it.
would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
what are you-
If
what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
white
you like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
comes
Go ahead,
from
let-
white
go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia.
How about
That's what
BLM?
his
It's an idea.
FBI.
Yeah.
His
Okay.
FBI
BLM an idea
director
or
said.
an
Well, then
organization?
you know what?
No,
He's
no, we're
wrong.
done. We're
They
done,
have
sir.
money
We're
being
moving on to the
funneled
next-
to
we're
that
moving-
group.
As an idea, yeah, it's fine.
Great. It's an
Your
organization.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas. that are
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
and
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful
records.
with them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, "Don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative." And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA,
forgot about
which
Space
was a
Force.
mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term.
Fine, sir.
300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President
Why should we
Trump?
elect
You have
you?
2 minutes uninterrupted.
Because I'm not.
Under this president,
Trump.
we become weaker, sicker,
He's gonna start out.
poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice
Because-
president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We
Dude.
left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin, and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got
And-
$3.5 million.
That's right.
Mi-
And
Mr.
by the way,
President,
my son.
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
no,
He's
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That
not
was a
yelling
rhetorical
at the
question.
pencil.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms
Doom
of
and
being
gloom,
more
man.
violent,
Doom and gloom.
When we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States.
Because-
It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way.
He's really
and
sticking
speaking
to his
of my
notes.
son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking
I don't know.
about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
for
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None
became
of that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made
son,
a fortune.
my son,
I don't think that was the right
my
way to handle it, though.
son, like a lot of people, like
Yeah.
a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why
I'm
was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
But he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right.
tens of
He
millions
was
of dollars.
given
That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's
dollars.
been totally
President Trump,
discredited.
you've already been through.
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment
somebody
call here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay,
from
right.
the
Let's
mayor
talk
of
about-
Moscow,
let's
That
talk
is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers'
Gen-
money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records.
Let's talk about the Green New
What
Deal.
do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now,
Yeah,
we are
doing well.
phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
Cigarettes?
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting a
Very simple
billion trees,
answer.
the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with
He's
the
not
head
wrong.
of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we
Yeah, they
have
don't do anything
trees
for
that
it.
are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
But,
management.
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But
$3,500.
in the case of California, they've simply
No,
ignored
but you would take a lot
your
of cars
roadmap.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car.
Yeah, no one's
Now,
going to be able to afford a car when it's all
By
electric.
the way, we're going to see how that
Yeah.
turns out. But a lot of people agree with me. Many
It'll take a
people.
while before it's
the
cheap
car
enough.
has
California.
gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And, and I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing,
Solyndra?
but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net
Make it
emission of
2030.
greenhouse gases by
Let's do it
2050.
quicker.
The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong,
True.
number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less
This was the Green New
gas and
Deal.
oil
Let's
because the heat will not
replace
be going
all
out.
the buildings
There's so many
because
things
they're
that
not
we
efficient.
can do now to create thousands.
This is straight out of the Green
thousands
New
jobs.
Deal.
We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good-paying jobs.
At the free
not
market.
$15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that, in fact, is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord.
one else
because
was
with us
following
out of
it.
Look what's happening.
Only
it's
us.
all falling apart. And talk about
China
something
wasn't
that
following
has
it. India was
no
not following
relationship
it.
to-
No
with
one was
foreign
following it.
policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion.
Let them come up with the $20 billion.
Tearing down the forest.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're going to have
We can't
significant
pay for everyone else's
economic
mistakes here.
consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that Well, the fact
Not
that
true. Not true.
it's all true. And here's
He's
the deal.
talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said.
I'm
20
It's
trillion.
$100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they
the
want to
Biden
rip down
plan.
Go for a
buildings
minute, and then you can go.
and rebuild.
He said,
the
let him go for a
buildings.
minute.
It's
Now
the
Biden's still going. Not true.
Not-
Chris is
where
interrupting him.
airplanes are out of business,
That's it.
where two-car systems are out, where they
Not
want to
true.
take out the cows too.
Not
That's not
true.
true either, right?
Not
this is
true.
a
cows.
this is a 100
Simply
trillion.
the
cows.
That's more money than our
is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're
not
going.
the case.
All right, let me
destroy
because,
our
because I
country.
actually, wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes.
This sounds expensive.
So the question becomes, the president is saying, I
Thousands
think
of
some
millions of
people
jobs.
who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
What, let him finish,
Thousands
sir.
of
We
wait,
don't know how to do that.
wait.
You're ahead of me.
The
Millions.
fact is, it's going
Yeah.
to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up a
we
lot of
we are going to be in a position where we
was
can
like
create
years ago.
hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape.
It really
We
puts
spend
more people out of
billions
jobs.
dollars now, billions of dollars on
The
floods,
free market is
hurricanes,
already
rising
making-
seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened.
We got a
in the
request to
Midwest.
We're already-
increase the audio.
Storms
Can you
that
increase
come
the audio
through
on the
and
stream?
Wipe out entire
Yes.
sections and counties in Iowa.
Sorry.
They didn't happen before. They're because
We're
of
probably too loud.
global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen,
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion,
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to
All right,
rebuild
all right.
every
If he
asked-
knew
you asked-
anything
wait, no, no,
about,
wait.
if he
Gentlemen,
knew
He
anything
made a
about,
statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that
play
to
it.
the
Stop.
military.
Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green
not
New
saying-
Deal
he's not answering it.
will pay for itself as we move
Oh.
forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New Deal.
you don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden-
lost the radical left.
I
Oh,
support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is
Green
different than
New
what he
Biden.
calls the radical Green New
It's all about the
Deal.
money,
gentlemen,
baby.
Final segment. Election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans
please.
are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election, and what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment,
This is a
Mr.
biggie
Vice President, you
for a
go
lot of
first.
people.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting.
Man, think about the
because he's
lines.
trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote
If you're
whatever
able to
way
vote
is the
twice,
best way
vote
for you, because you will.
If you're dead,
cannot
vote too.
Stop you from being able to
Grandma
determine
got
the
a,
outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted and they're all counted, that will
ballot
be
thing.
accepted. If I win, that
went
will
to
be
Grandma
accepted.
and
If I
Grandpa or
lose, that'll
something.
be accepted. But
People-
by the
so many
way,
people are still
if in
registered
fact he says he's
that have
not
moved out of the
sure what he's
state.
going to
Yeah.
accept, well, let me
It's
tell you
crazy.
something. It doesn't matter
now in North
because
Carolina.
if we get the votes, it's going to be all over.
registered.
He's going to go. He can't
Nice.
stand
Did my
power.
part.
It won't happen.
I didn't do it
won't
because of
happen.
Instagram or
So
Facebook.
Vote. Just make
I
sure
did it myself.
you understand. You have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years.
gonna say?
Is it
Just-
going to change? Or are you going to get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people,
What?
there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area.
6
They
of
sent
them.
out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th?
He needs to say
November
something
10th.
about.
That means
yes,
that's
I
7
will.
days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We
Yes,
have
a peaceful
major states
transition
for that.
will happen.
All run by
2 minutes
Democrats.
is 2
But-
minutes.
All run by
You're-
Democrats. It's a
President
fraud.
Trump,
It's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett,
no.
to
No.
settle any dispute?
Yeah,
No.
I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what are
They
you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
There
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now.
do
What are
is
you
you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do
I
a
never turned off my
solicited
oven.
ballot,
No,
and
no,
that's
I
okay,
know your
or you go and
complaint.
vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia,
like
mailmen selling the ballots. They're being
burning.
sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is not
evidence
going
of
to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden.
5 states
fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by Election Day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes.
So are we?
You're
What?
wrong.
Are,
You're wrong.
No, I want to continue with you on this.
Are we
counting
Vice
ballots?
President Biden, because
Chris, he's so wrong when
no,
he makes
in
a
fact,
statement
no,
like that.
excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this, because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you, that is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you
I
have
a
80 million ballots
gentlemen, I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right,
been
so now-
fraud.
Mail service delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen, and the
185
final
million
question
pieces of
is,
mail a day.
in
million
8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking.
It's
in
a
8
it's a
states,
disgrace.
election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's
That's
likely,
fine.
because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is.
It's going to be
It could
terrible. We're not
days,
going to know
it could
anything
be
on election night.
weeks,
Could be months.
until
Unless
we
it's
find out who
super-
the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things.
You
And
could
I
also
am
say
urging-
yes.
I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell
what-
you
what
what,
does that
from
mean,
a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're gonna
tell you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do
They're
about
not,
that?
they're
This
not
isn't a good
equipped
look,
to-
bro.
These people aren't equipped to handle it, number one. Number two,
Okay.
they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already
Kinda
been
just
established.
did.
Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race
I
in
asked
Manhattan.
you had an opportunity
Look
to
at
respond.
Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome, and I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an honest ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you.
All right.
And good night.
Good night.
Do they have any post comments?
And with that,
all right,
we are done.
Are we done? The debate's over.
We're done listening to that. That's all I can say.
All right, let's talk about our thoughts. What are your thoughts? Overall, just initial impressions.
Initial impressions is it matched. It was exactly how I thought it would go. They all yell, they yap. Nothing really happens. It was super boring, right? It changed no one's minds, essentially, right? No one is gonna wake up. No one's gonna wake up and say, "Hey, I know who to vote for now. I didn't know." No one cares. That was a boring presidential debate. I think there was nothing there.
There was not. I didn't feel like there was any particular issue that they talked about that we haven't just heard them talk about in recent weeks. I mean, nothing really exciting was talked about. I mean, they went back and forth, and it was more arguing back and forth about how much time they had left.
Much of that.
than anything. I will say, I think Chris Wallace pushed back on Trump a lot more than he did Biden in that sense.
I think so too.
And Biden was interrupting from times, but he did, even on the times where he just said a couple words and he interrupted Trump, he never did that to Biden. But again, I think he's probably trying to give Biden the benefit just because when Biden does speak, he doesn't get much out. So, you got to give him time. But I don't know. I would have liked to hear more discussion on the Supreme Court stuff a little bit. Like, it seemed like they left issues really quickly as soon as they started going back and forth about them. And they didn't get to the substance or the meat of the issue. They brought up Roe v. Wade like 1 second, and they never even talked about it again. They didn't talk about abortion at all.
It was only in reference to the Supreme Court.
They didn't bring up bigger issues that I feel like a lot of people vote on. That it was just like current stuff that's happening in the country, but nothing that's
true.
But not like.
I don't know if that's
I guess
true.
They did a little bit
because that the left votes on climate change. That the left votes on the Supreme Court. Like, all these things matter. They matter. I guess
it felt like there was more left-based issues that like you're saying, that the left votes on than anything that the right votes on.
What did we vote on?
They didn't poke Biden about other things.
Trump tried, but I don't think he did a good job at highlighting anything that people. I don't know. It's all a mess, right?
Yeah.
Can we say that?
I think it. Yeah, we could say that.
Good.
I do think that. Yeah, they didn't have it super under control. I was checking Twitter a little bit, and everybody's talking about the debate moderator a ton. Like, where's the moderator and everything. People were complaining about that throughout the debate. That was one big thing. And for a little bit, the quote that when Biden told Trump to shut up, man, or
That was
something,
good.
That started trending too for a little bit. I don't know if it was in a positive light or not, but
I wanted to be exciting, and it ended up not being that.
I wanted
Right?
I wanted Trump to quote like more things that Biden has said too on issues. It was more just them saying one thing and then the other person going, not true, not true. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, what in the chat, those of you that are still watching, what was your thoughts on it? Give us your rundown. Who did you think come out ahead on this? I think overall Trump dominated the discussion more. And had more substance as far as like he had more backing on, hey, this is what I've done, versus Biden just said not
Sure.
true on
Biden
things
was
and didn't really
super
have
generic
a
on everything.
answer.
I mean, debates aren't the time to get really specific. But besides the numbers that he had written down about death totals and random facts about whatever, he didn't
Yeah.
give any specifics. He just says, during my, when I was vice president, we did this and we did this. But it
Yeah.
was all super, just not very interesting.
It didn't seem like he had, like, even when Trump asked him for law enforcement that had endorsed him, he had no answer for that. I mean, he kind of just froze up whenever he was asked a direct question of answering. And yeah, he said, somebody said Trump bullied his way into winning this one. That's kind of what we said at the beginning that we thought was going to happen. I mean, that's the way he goes. I mean, that's how he won 2016. That's how he does it. And that's how it didn't hurt him in 2016. Somehow he, you thought his way of acting in 2016 on debates was going to hurt him, and it didn't. So a lot of people's surprise.
Trump's worst bit was there at the end. It's a very it's a media thing that every time they can get the chance to have him talk about maybe the chance of not they want him to say, I won't commit to a peaceful transition, and they got him tonight. Once again, he should have just said yes when there's a final review, and over time we're going to know. It's not that difficult to say. Why Trump has a hard time doing it is he's just buying into
I mean, he said the same thing in 2016 too, and they attacked him on the same. It feels like 2016 all over again, and the issues that they're attacking him about. It was the exact same sort of things.
Yeah.
Of quotes that he said and things that like it's like they're trying to repeat that.
Yes, I agree with Tom. Tom also mentions that I can't call you Tom. I'm sorry, I can't do it. That no, it could have been more. Had a better response with the white supremacy. Just like, that was his worst moment back in 2017 when he did not condemn those groups stronger. That was one of his worst moments. And I think he was kind of in the same.
But I think he was trying to point out too, at the same time, he was trying to bounce back to Chris Wallace. What specific group are you talking about? Because in the case of like BLM or Antifa, you've got specific groups that you can tie to these riots and things, and they're trying to say that the white supremacy groups are doing these riots, but there's no like general like name for these groups. They don't have a name that they can pinpoint. So maybe there are white supremacists in those riots. There may be, but they're not any identifiable ones that they can put a finger on.
Every major city has had mostly peaceful protests that have gone on to be a little more than mostly peaceful. And there was polling done last week that polled people in these riot zones. And people who supported Trump 2-1 versus Biden. It was like 60% to, what is it? 75 to, it was 2-1, whatever it was. It was a lot. So these areas are being affected, and Biden and Kamala and the entire Democratic Party waited until the beginning to mid, a couple weeks ago to really address it at all, because that their internal polling was just really bad on it, because they realized that these riots are affecting
The
businesses.
people actually care.
They're hurting white people, they're hurting black people, they're hurting Hispanic people. All of these demographics are being represented are in these,
because they're all
riot
small business
zones.
owners, and
Yes.
they're everywhere.
And
It's not just a single race that you're attacking in that case. Like,
right.
And the people don't seem to realize, like, the riots are just destroying whole cities, not just
Right.
like, and for what gain when you're destroying things. I do agree. If Biden would have been able to talk more, he probably would have run out of his batteries. That's probably true.
He did not fade. He did not have
There was a couple times
gaffes.
he looked confused, but he didn't have any major gaffes.
Listen, the last 4 months of just being in a hole has really helped him, I think.
I mean,
it seemed like he was prepared
like
enough on
he was well rested.
Yeah. He didn't look it, but he spoke that way.
Yeah.
In any case, it's been fun.
Who's the next? What's the next debate? Who's that through? Is that CNN or ABC, or do we know?
I do not know. It'll be interesting. This probably was the best opportunity to have a balanced moderator.
Do you remember the CNN debate? I believe it was last year.
With
I think it was CNN, and how out of control that was.
Yeah.
Again, there was a lot of Democratic candidates on the stage.
This one wasn't much better.
I'm trying to see who's going to be the moderator for the next one. If anybody knows, just throw it in the chat. But
yeah.
Does it sound okay?
Oops.
I think it looks like maybe it's going to be CBS.
Trump.
That right?
Trump.
Oh wait,
didn't
Fox
Trump
News.
visit Portland? Oh, a riot zone?
Susan Page. USA Today is running the next one. Susan
I don't know
Page.
if he did or not.
What was your question?
If Biden was willing, Biden should be as willing to visit a riot zone as he is willing to meet with the families of sexual assaulters. Right? Like he's much more willing to meet with families who have been
Trump?
who have been in the media with all of these police incidences, then he is willing to meet with people who are affected by riots or people who have been affected by all this other stuff. So I don't know. They have their priorities so messed up.
Yeah,
everything's terrible. 2020.
Each one's just made up their own priorities, but I honestly don't think either one's knowing. I mean, Trump should just keep campaigning on the fact of before COVID and how the economy was doing and things like that. That's his strongest suit.
Like the economy was the biggest.
I mean, things were running well. Everything seemed to be going mostly okay from the perspective of, that sort of thing. I mean, other people might say differently, but Biden is really taking the COVID thing and running with it, and
who wouldn't
saying that? Yeah, I mean that's his only strategy at this point.
Oh well, it's been real.
We hope you enjoyed watching tonight. Are we gonna do this next week? When is next week's debate?
No, a week from. Is it a Thursday?
That's October 7th. Let's see. It's Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah, we should do it.
Wait,
is that
probably
legit next week?
Yeah.
We might do
I
it.
think we'll talk about it. We may do it. Make sure to follow our channel
Yes,
here.
subscribe
Get
to the
notifications.
YouTube channel.
Subscribe.
Turn on the bell.
Hit the notification bell. You'll get notified when we go live. And also, you can subscribe to us on Twitter if you have a Twitter account or Instagram, and we'll post there as well if we're going to be streaming the next one, and you'll know the exact time when we'll go live.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Yeah.
oh, you got music playing?
It's been real.
I think that's it.
It's been fun. You've been watching Jason and Greg live. First presidential debate.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you
I can
enjoyed
end
it.
this whenever I want. I'm the one ending this now.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna thank them anyways. I can end my stream anytime. I can leave the call
You can just leave the call.
at any
Don't do
point.
that. I'm going to leave. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with the second debate.
Presidential.
You've been watching Jason and Greg live. I've been Jason.
Debate coverage 2020.
That's been Greg. And we will see you next time.
See you guys.